know the vibes out on this side, yeah.
What was it that you had to sacrifice in order to get to where you're at today? What is it that your clients are actually paying for when they hire you to be an agent? How do you negotiate without being pushy? What is it that makes an agent that doesn't really do luxury look like an amateur fast?
You know, there's one thing that people talk about, which is commission breath, right? And when people smell that, you're toast. You're investing in an outcome. You're not paying for a service. It's like sometimes when you're down in the dumps and you feel like, you know, you've been buried, you've actually been planted, right? You grow out of that.
TruTalk family, today we've got a real Miami heavyweight in the building. Our guest is Dennis Carvajal from Sotheby's International Realty, one of the most consistent ultra luxury operators in South Florida. To put Dennis's success into perspective, over the last 12 months alone, he's closed more than $318 million in sales volume with an average sales price of $11.7 million. And if that sounds impressive, consider this. We're only halfway through 2026, and he's already surpassed $181 million in closed sales, with plenty of runway left in the second half of the year. Not surprisingly, his career sales have now exceeded $1 billion, and that's not even accounting for the significant volume he's transacted off market. And what makes this even more impressive is this. Dennis isn't stacking numbers with a 20-agent team. These are individual numbers. This is one operator executing at the highest level. So this isn't a hype episode. This is an ultra luxury real estate masterclass. How you earn trust at the top, how off-market deals really happen, and how you run a business when the stakes are real. Dennis, welcome to TruTalks, my brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me, brother.
It is so exciting to have you here.
Yep, I'm excited to be here.
Sitting in this chair. Look, I know you were telling me earlier when you got here that your son plays basketball and scored his first point yesterday and you went crazy. I want your son to hear this. You are the Luka of your industry.
Thank you, man.
All right? So, you know, when your son sees this, your dad right here, that's Luka that we got over here sitting in this chair. Man, those numbers are impressive what you've done.
Yeah.
It's,
Thank you, man.
It's short. And the craziest thing is how you're doing it as an operator and not with a team full of like 20 people. So tell me, Dennis, tell me your journey over the last 20 years and how is it that you got from where you started to being where you're at now?
So I got licensed back in 2003. I think I was 19 or 20. And I just jumped right in. Never graduated college. And, you know, went for a couple weeks, wasn't for me, got my license, jumped right in. And I went to work at the time at a boutique firm that was Shelton and Associates.
Yes, I know them.
And so Teresita Shelton, who is no longer with us, unfortunately, was the one who gave me my first opportunity. And she brought me in and let me do open houses for her high-end listings and stuff like that. And I helped her and her daughter Tere Bernase, who I'm sure you know, was a great woman, a lot in the beginning. And then Mai de la Vega, who's like another mother to me, left there to start another company called Stuart de la Vega, which was another boutique firm. And I left with her and just kind of took off from there. We became Sotheby's in 2008, I believe, in the middle of the recession.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I remember everybody telling her she was crazy to do it. We started in a little shoebox office where, you know, if you needed to go show property, 6 people had to move their cars so you could get your car out, right? But it was a great group. It was a great team. It was a great culture. We had a lot of fun. But I never went to go work for anybody. I always kind of wanted to do it on my own and learn on my own and kind of go through that struggle, right? And the rest is kind of history. Just kind of kept growing the business and taking off and working hard and, you know.
Yeah, and you mentioned a quick word there, which was struggle. Because everyone goes and sees you now and where you're at now, but they don't understand the struggle and the things that you've went through.
Right.
What was it that you had to sacrifice in order to get to where you're at today?
You know, it's funny. I have this conversation a lot with people. You see like $1 Million Listing and all these shows where a lot of people, they get into the business, I feel like, because they see those episodes and they see where like they're having a bottle of wine at lunch and they're banging out a $20 million deal. And it's like, that's not reality. You know what I mean?
No,
I agree. I got in with no experience. I mean, I came from a commercial background because my family's in commercial real estate, but no residential experience. And really, like, I didn't have a life those first 6-7 years. I mean, my friends, were going out on the boat and hanging out on weekends, and I had to work. I was, doing open houses and asking whatever agent I could to let me do their open houses for them and meet clients and really kind of just becoming a student of the industry and the market and really kind of knowing the market. I really tried to pride myself on, if I was doing an open house for somebody, knowing that neighborhood cold. Like if somebody came in and wanted to know, like I knew who lived where, when they bought, what they paid, all that.
Being a student of the game.
That's it.
And that's what gets you there, right?
That's one of the things that gets you there, right? I think there's a lot of things that get you there, but I mean, I think that's one of the things. I think, you got to work hard. I think always putting the client first. There's one thing that people talk about, which is commission breath, right? And when people smell that, you're toast.
Oof, I haven't heard that one before, commission breath.
Yeah, anybody, I feel like anybody in sales, whenever you're approached by somebody in sales, typically people always kind of have their guard up because they feel like you just want to sell them.
That's true.
And it's an unfortunate truth in a lot of cases. And so I've really always, one of my biggest things is always trying to make people feel comfortable and realize that I'm there for them. And for me, whether they buy or sell or not, it's not about making money. It's about the relationship and making sure that they're happy and getting what they want and that everything goes well, right?
Yes.
And I think that's really one of the biggest things, is always putting them before anything else.
Absolutely. And you're at the ultra luxury level. So I know at that level, you talked about commission breath. It's like these people that you're dealing with are high level. They could smell it from a mile away. So what is it that your clients are actually paying for when they hire you to be an agent?
Whenever I get interviewed for listings, and people start having that commission conversation and things like that, I always tell them the one mistake a lot of people make and a lot of agents I think make is they don't realize that they are people. The thing that I tell people is you're investing in an outcome. You're not paying for a service.
Okay. Yeah, true.
And I think once people realize that, you view that a little bit differently, right? What you do. And so, I think people at that level are paying for discretion, honesty, information, right? Knowing what's going on, access to pocket listings, in a market that's incredibly tight, where, right now we're probably the hottest market in the country, if not one of them. There's a lot of things that are happening off market, and with off markets, you need to have a lot of relationships, good relationships, to be, informed as to what's off market and what's accessible. And I think those are a lot of things that people pay for, right? Loyalty, honesty, good service, good representation, negotiation skills, and access to off markets.
You're mentioning access to off markets. I think that's very interesting because I know you do a lot of off market.
Yep.
And some of that stuff doesn't even reflect on the MLS in your performance, right? So walk us through off market. What does that look like for someone like me that doesn't really know about off market? What does that look like?
So off markets typically is you'll have different situations. Sometimes you'll have situations where they're actually going to list the house, but prior to listing it, they kind of want to test the market quietly and see what happens before going to market. And so that's one scenario where you'll go through it. Most times, though, it's a situation where you'll have somebody that says, hey, I don't want to put the house on the market, but if I get this number or you bring me the right buyer, I'll sell. For whatever reason, either they're not sure if they want to sell, either they're opportunistic because of the market we're in, or sometimes they just want a private sale where they don't want to deal with a bunch of random people coming in their home.
Sure, that makes sense.
So that's really kind of where the off markets are.
That makes sense, yeah. So that's what separates the good from the greats, and the people that really know how to dance in this luxury market is being able to have the network to those off-market deals and everything else like that. And clearly, you're a true example of that. And now I want to ask you another question in regards to the ultra-luxury market. What is it that makes an agent that doesn't really do luxury look like an amateur fast?
I mean, I think one thing is going back to commission breath, right? And I hate to use that term, but
no, that's the term of this podcast. That's our theme, commission breath.
I think, I hate to use that term, but I think one thing is, when you're too all over people and you're just way too aggressive with them and they can just feel like you're not in it for them and you're just kind of out for yourself. That's one mistake, because it's when you're dealing in the high end, the numbers tend to get bigger, right? And so, people, it's temptation for a lot of people, and they don't want to lose that opportunity, and they want to do everything they can to make that happen. And I
they
think
get
a lot
desperate.
of times, you said it, they get desperate, they get overbearing, and buyers at that level, especially sophisticated buyers that have been around the block, they can tell. Like, they can tell when you're not being genuine, when you're not being authentic, when you're just trying to take them for a ride and just trying to do what's best for you rather than what's best for them.
It's true. I could relate to what you're saying. And I know it's hard for a realtor sometimes, because this is the biggest deal of your career. You're looking at this and you're like, oh my gosh, if I lose this could make or break my entire year.
Yeah.
And just recently, I tell you a story. We were dealing with a situation. We inspected about, I think it was like a $17 million home.
Yeah.
And normally, Dennis, people, and you know this, people that buy houses at this level, they're not finicky.
Right.
They don't get turned away for $10,000, $20,000 issues that a house may have.
Right.
But next thing you know, I got a call from the agent at 9:00 at night saying, they're canceling the contract. Please help me. Oh, I need you to talk to them. So the moment I got on the phone and I spoke to these buyers, they were in Tennessee. They were super finicky. I could hear the husband answer the phone, and before they said hello, I hear the wife saying, I don't care what he says. They're paying him to convince you. So I already heard this. So I'm trying to explain to them, hey, look, these issues that the house has, in a very charge neutral approach. But at the end of the day, buying a house in this luxury market, you're getting a deal nowadays in Miami, right? And at some point during the conversation, I said, you know what? Don't buy the house. That's fine with me. You're going to call me for the next inspection.
Right.
And guess what? That house is going to carry its own problems itself. So don't buy the house. That's perfectly fine with me. I'll go ahead and tell the agent to call you, send you a cancellation, and call it as is. And I was like, at that moment, I'm like, I think I'm crazy for doing that. But I felt that there were so many people trying to pressure them to buy the house. When I told them, don't buy the house,
No, I thought that was the right approach.
they sent a cancellation. So I'm in a text thread with the agent, with the whole team. And next thing you know, it's 3 hours pass by, midnight, cancellation not signed. I wake up in the morning, 7 a.m., text message. They signed the repair addendum. And it's like sometime you sucking the life out of people and you just got to let them go. So what do you think about that?
I it's funny going along with what you said. One thing that I always tell clients is in situations when we're negotiating deals or we're on a listing interview or whatever, I always tell people, I'm like, listen, I can guide you. I can help you strategize. I can guide you on a deal, tell you where the market is, negotiate for you, go to bat for you, fight for you till the end of time. But at the end of the day, I can't tell you what's best for you and your family. Only you can decide that. I can bring you the best deal in town, but it may not be the best deal in town. Only you guys can decide that, right? And I think that's kind of like what you did, right? Like everybody's telling them, can't go through with it. And you were like, don't go, if you don't feel comfortable, don't go through with it. And I think that's important, right? You can't make decisions for people. And my job is not to make decisions for people. It's to help people make the best decision for them.
Yes, that's true. And the more you try to push something onto somebody, the more defensive they're going to get. Because
100%.
now it's like, you're not here for my best interest.
Right.
You're here for your best interest.
Right.
And that's why you just got to say, don't buy it then. It's okay.
Right.
And that's why with you, how many houses have we inspected? How many houses have we done? Issues that we found. The deal's closed.
Yeah.
Because you always have the best interest of all of these clients.
Yep.
And I know that we talked earlier about coaching, that you said that things were slipping through the cracks.
Yes.
What was it that was slipping through the cracks and that led you to hire an operational based advisor?
I think for me, what happened was my business had grown exponentially over the years, and I hit a year there where it was a down year compared to, it was still a great year, but it was a down year compared to other years. And anybody could have up and down years, right? That's normal. I think that's the nature of our business. There's ups and downs and there's cycles and whatnot. But I think that I kind of had a come to Jesus moment where I realized myself that it was my fault, right? And I think a lot of times agents, it's easy to blame the company or blame, other outside circumstances. Like I knew that I took my foot off the gas and I was mad at myself for that. And I wanted to figure out how to fix that. And I'd heard about a real estate coach based out of Chicago who's great, who's in the Sotheby's network. And I called him, and he said, at the time, he was coaching another agent in this market. And he's got a rule where he won't coach. It's funny because I laugh at this story with him all the time. When we spoke, we had a great conversation, great guy. And he said, man, I have this rule where I won't coach two agents in the same market. This was at the time. I don't know about now. And he said, but I'm happy to talk to that agent and ask them if they're okay with me bringing you on. And I said, look, I know the agent, like we're friendly. I don't want to put them in a situation where they're uncomfortable and they feel like they, have to say yes or whatever. So like this conversation never happened. Don't worry. Don't bring it up. And if the opportunity ever happens that we can work together in the future, we'll do it, right? If our paths cross. So I think maybe like 2 years later, or I don't know if it was a year or 2 years later, it might have been a year. I find out that agent is leaving the Sotheby's network. Or the Sotheby's brand. So I call him and I said, hey, I heard this, is there a spot available? And he didn't know that person was leaving. Had heard maybe. So he said, oh, I don't know if they left yet. Let me reach out and find out. He called that particular agent, and the agent said, yeah, I left. I went to another company. So he calls me back and says, yeah, the agent left. You're in. So I started coaching with him, and it's actually been 2 years. It just became 2 years.
That you've been with this coach.
With this coach.
And look at that. You're possibly like your two biggest years, right?
Right. It's been 2 years. And, we sat with him, and he kind of went down these buckets of like things of what am I doing and what am I not doing, and asking a bunch of questions. And I remember when I talked to him, I told him what we were doing in sales volume, what we had done the previous year. But I told him, I go, we're doing these numbers, but I don't have any systems in place. Like I have a great director of operations. Back then it was just her and I. Now we have another agent that works with us who's amazing also, just like part of the family. And back then, my director of operations was organized and everything was great, but I just knew that things were slipping through the cracks because of me. And I think I was holding her back a little bit, right? And so he came in, he started asking us questions, coaching with us, implementing systems like back office systems, telling us what to do. It's not like a strategy thing of like how to negotiate a deal or anything like that.
Of course.
That's all us.
Yes.
But he really changed our world when it came to like how to not let things slip through the cracks. And the one thing on that call, like I was saying, that I told him was, we're doing this volume, but there's no systems in place. Like I'm writing things on a legal pad. I'll find out later that a certain client slipped through and they bought or they sold or they listed, and like that shouldn't happen. You have to control the controllables in life, right? And there's things that are out of your control and things that aren't. And I remember talking to him and him being like, I can't believe that you're even doing those numbers with what you're telling me how you operate. And so he came in and just kind of revamped everything, and we bought into it. And sometimes people will go with him and they don't buy into it, and that's fine. But we really kind of, and that's another hard thing, is like letting go and letting somebody kind of, guide you in that.
Of course.
Right? That's not easy for everybody. And that was a little bit of a challenge. But, we bought into it. We let him kind of just run with it. And whatever he suggested and said, systems-wise, things to do, whatever, we bought into it and we did it. And he's been amazing. I mean, we have a call with him every other week. Cameron and I, we get together with his group once a year. And it's just been, like, for my business, it's been transformative because we've been much more organized. We have all the buyers and sellers in there, all the listings of what's going on, all the information. We track like our 12-month rolling sales. So like now, for example, rather than January 1st hitting and, starting at zero and thinking, God, we're starting at zero. Like it's overwhelming after if you have a great year. If you have a bad year, you're like, thank God the year's over, we're starting over. But if you have a great year, you're kind of like, man, how am I going to beat that? One thing he kind of taught me was like, don't go to January 1st and think you're at zero. Always track your 12-month back. Always look 12 months back.
Yes.
And that has kind of really shifted the focus too, because it's not as overwhelming, right?
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's something that we do as well. Something powerful that I see here that I want people to learn and understand is, this is somebody that's in ultra luxury doing crazy numbers, and you were open enough to bring someone in and say, what do you suggest? And let me try it. A lot of people are afraid to try new things, or they're stubborn to try new things, and that's why you get stuck. So you said, you know what, let me try everything that you're doing, and if it doesn't work, then I'll exit out. But at least I'll give it a chance. And chances are that the person that already did that and already went through it is has been successful with it, and you're just following. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
So it's very impressive that someone at your level did that, and that's why, look, you see the proof and the evidence how you went and you skyrocketed to where you're at today. I'm curious to know, what were those, tell me like 3 systems that changed everything, because I know he helped you with a lot of internal systems. What were those systems that helped you that changed everything?
I think it's not exactly that it's 3 systems per se. I think the main thing was he got us on something called Monday.com.
Monday.com.
And so he got us on Monday.com, and
Something so simple, right?
something so simple.
Yeah.
But it's time consuming in setting it up and getting it dialed into where it works for you, and how much or how little you want in there and what you want it to do for you. And so that's been a work in progress, that just getting that dialed in took, months, maybe close to a year, because we were constantly adding to it and changing this and seeing what worked and what didn't work and going through certain situations and whatnot. But I think that was one thing. I was never a CRM guy, ever. And I'm not gonna lie and say that now I'm a big CRM guy, but I've become better at it and focused more on it, to where, like, one piece of advice that he told me was, he said, look, you go to your list of people and you commit to making 10 extra calls a week. He told me, and when he said this to me, it really resonated. I'm like, man, you know what? You're right. He's like, you're going to tell me that if you don't make 10 extra calls a week to people that you haven't talked to in a while, like, there's not an extra 20, 30, $40 million in volume there.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And when I thought about it, I was like, man, that makes so much sense. Because what happens is, a lot of people in this business, it's out of sight, out of mind, right? Like, you do a deal with somebody and then you kind of forget, and you get busy and you're dealing with the next deal and other people and whatnot.
And then they meet the next person.
And then they meet the next person, or a friend, a parent at school or whatever. But the reality is, my business, if you look at my business, I've never been a huge marketing guy. Like, yeah, we do social media and things like that. And we did go through a period where we were like heavy into like the Miami Herald and things like that, when that was a thing, which we don't really do anymore. But my business, the majority of it is either repeat business or referral business.
Yes.
From existing clients or other agents. Like, that's the majority of my business. And a lot of people, I think, in our industry, unfortunately, especially when you start out, it's easy to be short-sighted and not think of the long game and think like, oh, I sold this person a house and like, that's it. No.
Yeah.
If that person's happy, they're going to refer you their friend or their cousin or a work colleague, or they're going to call you in 3 years when their situation gets better and they got a new job and they want to upgrade or whatever, or life changes, whatever the case may be, right? But out of sight, out of mind is a big thing.
Yep, that's true. Okay, so with those 10 calls that you were doing from your CRM, what did that change?
I think it just changed. Number one, I've always been a big people person. I love talking to people. I'm the kind of guy that, like, I'll see you, I'll give you a big hug. Anybody, like, I've always been like that. So yes. I love catching up with people. So for me, it kind of gave me a chance to kind of look back and say, man, you know what? I haven't reached out to these people or talked to these people in a while. And they're people that, that you love talking to and love seeing, but life happens and you get busy with kids and work and everything going on.
Absolutely.
And it kind of falls through the cracks because you don't have it there in front of you to look at and say, man, you know what? I haven't talked to this person in a while.
And that's true, because that out of sight, out of mind, you said it. And we're in an industry where we have to be consistently top of mind.
Yeah, yeah.
And even if they don't want to buy a house.
Right.
Something that my coach taught me was the Columbo effect. Oh, hey, how are you? How are things going? Oh, I haven't had a lot of work and a lot of business lately. Oh, okay. No, but I love you guys. You guys are great. You guys always do a good job. Thank you so much. Can you do me a favor? Sure. What could I do for you, Louis? Please don't keep us a secret. Yeah. That's like the Columbo effect there. And by you calling, making that conversation, maybe that person wasn't thinking about selling their house.
Right.
But then next thing you know, you guys are talking, and then it's like, yeah, hey, I've sold a house in your neighborhood for this much and that much. And how much was it that you paid again? No, I paid this much. Wow. Next thing you know, they go to bed that night, and he's talking to his wife, and he's like, honey, we can make $6 million if we sell right now.
Right.
And it's like, next thing you know, you got a call. Has that ever happened?
Yeah. Or yes. Or, you have cases like what you're saying, where you call and you check in with somebody, and then they remember, or that next weekend at dinner, they have a friend who maybe isn't happy with whoever's representing them, and which happens, and you get that recommendation. I went on a listing presentation yesterday. It was a referral from a client. I have another one later today, a referral from another client. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's because you made those people happy. They saw you did a good job for them, and they want to pass that on to a friend, right?
Yes, that's very important. And for agents that are listening, I think it's important that they take that into account. Work the phones, be top of mind. Even if you're not expecting something from someone, just being top of mind could trigger that dinner conversation, etc.
Yeah, and you know what also? Like, somebody sends you a referral, a client, be appreciative. Like, call them, hey, thank you so much for sending me this person. Like one thing that I like to do is if somebody sends me a referral, a client or whatever, like you send them a little gift. You know what I mean? Even if it doesn't work out, even if they list with somebody else. But send them a little touch so that they know that you appreciate it. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, that's very true. And Dennis, one thing about you is, that I want to make clear, your numbers and what you're doing, that's impressive, right? Already called you Luca on here, the Luca of our industry. You're not doing it with a team of like 10, 20 agents. You're doing that as you as the operator with a couple of support staff. Can you explain to us your business structure?
Yeah, so I actually, I've got an amazing group with me. I've got so Cameron, who's been with me for probably 14 years now.
Wow, that's a long time to be able to have someone there with
16?
you.
No, 13 years. And she's been with me for 13 years. She runs the office, like the calendar, the contracts. She runs everything. And she really kind of knows, how I am. And one very important thing, which is huge, is we've got the same kind of moral compass and ethics and stuff like that, which is huge when you're developing a team, right?
Right?
It's important.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then for about a year, I think it just turned a year actually. Somebody else who came to work with us, Olive Sherman, who has also been amazing. And she helps tremendously with Cameron and with showings and clients and, everything that you can imagine. I mean, the weight that they carry is huge. I couldn't do what I do without them. That's for sure. And they, are always on me and pushing me to do things and to, try and be better at what I do and how to improve things and call this person and we should look at this person. And there are two people where you can tell when you deal with them, they're not just people that are, agents or employees or whatever you want to call them. Like they care.
They
like,
care.
You can
That's
tell
so
that
important.
They care.
And it's hard to find
and
people.
That's hard, right?
Yeah.
And then, I've got my wife who, she gives me advice all the time, right? And it's my wife doesn't have a real estate background. She doesn't, know that real estate world as well because she doesn't come from it. But she'll tell me like, hey, maybe you should do this on social media, or maybe you should, why don't you do this? Or she'll always give me tidbits and advice and stuff like that. So really like, that's my internal like office support. And then you've got, the company as itself, right? We've got an amazing management team. Maya and Daniel are amazing, and they always, whenever they, feel like we should do something differently or want to give advice or guidance or whatever, they're always there and always do it. Same thing with our broker, Seth and Vanessa and everybody there, and other agents, it's a very collaborative environment. And I love collaborating with agents, especially I'm a part of this group within Sotheby's, which is the top 46 agents from around the country. And that's an amazing group because, they're all over New York, Boston, Vail, Aspen, California, Texas, anywhere. And we get together twice a year and kind of share best practices and collaborate.
You mastermind.
You mastermind what's working for you, what's working for me.
That's huge.
We're constantly in a group texting on certain situations, or who can you recommend in a different market for referral for a client. And so those are all things that are super helpful.
That's why it's important. You are who you surround yourself with.
100%.
And you're part of a powerful network, and that's why it shows. And something that's impressive about what you said is you said, if it wasn't for them, I couldn't do what I'm doing here today.
No.
And it's good that you don't take the credit.
No.
That you give it to your team and the people that surround you.
No. I think, listen, and I realized, I remember when I hired Cameron the first time, I said, look, I've been able to do what I do and get to where I'm at because, I work hard and I'm doing something right, but there's other things that I'm not doing right. I know what I know and I know what I don't know. But I know that if from here, we go from A to B, it's obviously because of your help, right? Because you're doing a good job. And so every step of the way, we've gone from A to B to C to D and, making certain changes and whatever. And Now we added Olive, like I said, a year ago, and that's been a tremendous help. And we've managed to have another great year and another big jump. And so,
Are you tracking any specific KPIs with Cameron and Olive to be able to truly see that growth and change that you're seeing?
no, I think it's just kind of apparent, right? Like in our business, no 2 days are the same, right? So everything's different. Days are crazy. There's days where I'll be out all day showing between appointments. Cameron will be in the office because she's not really showing that much anymore. She's more in the office. She'll go if she has to, but Olive really helps out with showings and going to inspections and things like that and dealing with clients. And like everybody, the one big blessing that I have is I can't tell you how many times I'll get calls from clients or even other agents that will be like, hey, we met Olive and she's amazing. Or hey, Cameron's amazing. Like, wow, Cameron's
That's
amazing.
like music to your ears.
Yeah, because, at the end of the day, we all want to represent each other, right? It's a team effort. And so...
And they're a representation of you.
Right, 100%. But I also, like, if I was a jerk or I did something wrong, like, it's not a good look for them because then people kind of associate and say, wow, they work for that guy? Like, no, it's a cohesive thing where everybody... we've all kind of got the same mindset, right? And that's important. It's not easy to find.
Yep. And Dennis, 2 deals in 45 days, 55 million and 47 million.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what does that tell you about the Miami market?
I think the Miami market has evolved a lot in the last 10 years, even before COVID. Miami was changing. You had people moving from New York already and looking to move, not at the same velocity. But Miami as a city's changed tremendously. And I hate to use this word, but it's become a little bit of a sexier city. It's much more culturally significant. The restaurant scene's improved tremendously. The art scene has improved tremendously. Now you've got huge events like Art Basel. You've got the Grand Prix. You've got so many events, that people come into town for. COVID hit naturally, and then you had a mass exodus from New York and other parts of the Midwest and up north and things like that. And then things kind of cooled off. And then now what we've seen since January 1st is an exodus from California because of the wealth tax.
True. What are these California buyers seeing in Miami that they're not seeing over there, that they're flocking over here now?
I think they're seeing a couple things. I think that they're seeing, California's got the best weather in the country. I mean, their weather's unbelievable.
It is, yes.
So I think, moving here, it's you're going to get great weather. The business environment here is very positive, right? People love to do business here. And I think what the huge thing is, and what you're seeing with a lot of these people, the billionaires and millionaires and movie others, they don't want to deal with the wealth tax that they are going to vote on in November. And I think a lot of people see the writing on the wall and feel like that may pass. So they've kind of preemptively moved and come early. And I think what they're seeing is, if you're worth $1 billion and they want to tax you 5% on your net worth, like that's a big hit, right? Because that's on unearned income and everything. That's a big hit on stocks, on everything. And if the stocks go down, you're not getting that money back. So I think for them, they're coming here and they're seeing these homes that are 20, 30, 40, 50 million bucks. And for them, it's like a free house compared to staying there and having to deal with that.
Yes, true.
If you think about it, right? If you do the numbers.
Yeah, give us an example of that. For those I don't know.
No, I think you if you've got a guy who's worth, $2 billion on paper and they want to tax them at 5% of that, that's a much bigger number than buying a $40 million house here.
Yes, of course.
So, I think in a lot of cases, the ones who want to get away from that and not deal with that, they move here, they kind of get away from that and they're here for whatever, 181 days or 195 days. And then maybe they keep a part-time place there or they, a lot of those places have homes all over the world. But I think a lot of them see how those environments and those regions have changed so much, in the last few years.
Yep.
And they just don't want to deal with it.
Yep, of course. And you see, I was looking now, breaking news like on ESPN that I like watching football. And you got this guy, Myles Garrett, defensive end from the Browns, went to the Rams, got this big $200 million contract. And when you break it down, he's only netting $78 million.
That's insane.
It's insane, right?
That's insane.
So it explains why everyone's coming here. And on the contrary, here in Florida, we're going into a vote in November to lower property taxes potentially eliminate them, which I don't think that's going to happen, but lowering property taxes. What do you think if the property taxes actually get lowered, what it would do to the market?
Man, I think that you get a lot of buyers that have cash that would buy a certain price point home, but don't because they don't want that residual of the property taxes. Like I remember when I was starting out, I had business owners that could afford to buy these big homes back then, but they would tell me like, I could buy this house, but then I can't retire because now all of a sudden you've got this, tax bill that's $300,000, $100,000, $50,000, whatever it is that's in your price point that you're talking about. And so I think it will stimulate the market even more than it already is because it's going to make the cost of home ownership more affordable in that sense. Because I think the high property taxes, along with insurance, but insurance has come down a little bit. The high property taxes is one thing that, scares people off sometimes when they look at these big deals.
Yes, that's true. It's funny that you say it about someone that retired. I have a friend of mine, has a house in Gables by the Sea. He retired and his property taxes are in excess of $60,000 a year.
Right.
And it's like, it's hard for someone that's retired to keep paying those taxes when you're there.
And that's, people don't realize, but that's, you get into that and I remember I had a client that he bought a house and he had retired, but he had done well. And his property tax bill is $90,000 a year. And he would tell me, buddy, that's before the first hamburger on January 1st.
It's true, right?
And like, you think about that and it's a commitment. And a lot of times I tell people, like, even when we're looking at deals, sometimes it's not a matter of can you or can't you, like, can you afford it or can't you afford it? It's just like,
it's about maintaining it.
No. And it's about, do you feel like, are you happy with that? Like, do you want that? Right.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have people that they can afford that and more, but it just kind of irks them. Like they don't want to deal with that. Like they feel like it's
a lot.
It's a lot.
It's funny. I'm big into boats. I know you are too. And my business partner's dad worked in the boating industry his entire year. And he says, la cosa no es comprarse el bote grande. La cosa es mantenerlo.
100%.
Anyone could buy the big boat, but you have to maintain it. 100%. And it's the same thing with the house.
And by the way, the boats might be more.
Yeah, right.
Nowadays. Yeah, the big boats might be more.
What has changed in the last 5 to 6 years here in Miami? And what do you think the next mini cycle here looks like?
Well, look, I think the last 6 years, I mean, how long ago was COVID? We're in 2026. COVID
6
was
years.
what, 6 years ago?
Yep.
So I think what's changed is I think Miami has changed tremendously in the sense that there's a lot more people here. Getting into schools is a lot harder. Getting reservations is a lot harder.
Tell me about it. When my wife on a Friday night says we don't have reservations, she's like, "Oh, where are we gonna go to dinner tonight?" I'm like, "Honey, Cheesecake Factory."
Yeah.
There's nowhere not good you're gonna go in Miami if you don't make reservations on Monday.
Getting reservations has become a challenge. Getting into schools is a big. I mean, I've got 2 little kids in school, and I see it every year with the applications. It's getting into schools is a challenge. But pricing and tightness in the market, right? Like we're doing a lot more. We used to do a lot of off-market sales before, and now we're doing even more because there's just the market's tighter, right? And you've got a lot of buyers still coming in and looking, and you've got a lot of buyers that people aren't realizing that have come in the last year or 2 or 3 that maybe didn't find something when they came, so they rented. Yeah. So those buyers didn't go away. Those buyers still have to buy.
Interesting.
And so it's become tighter, but we're managing to get deals done and things have been good.
And that's why agents like you that win because you have those relationships with those off-market deals.
Right.
And that's why you're winning. And I know that what my coach taught me, he said that, Louis, availability is your best ability.
Absolutely.
And I know that with these high net worth individuals that you're working with, you need to be available.
Yep.
But how is it that you stay available without being on the phone 24/7?
I'm pretty close to on the phone 24/7. It's funny.
I know even before we got started here, you're on the phone.
Yeah, it doesn't stop. I remember my wife told me once, she's like, you go to sleep on the phone and you wake up on the phone. Because there's text messages. It's always going on. And what happens is I think we live in an era of, I don't want to say convenience, but like if you look at the era we live in now, everything is Uber Eats, Instacart, massages at home on Zeal, DoorDash. Everybody wants instant results. And so now with even with text messaging, like sometimes you'll text message somebody and if they don't answer you in 5 or 10 minutes, you're like, hey, you know what I mean? Like people want instant responses and instant gratification. And so when you get a call from somebody, I'm not talking about a particular client that you already have, but like a new person that calls you on a listing, like if you don't get back to them quick,
that ship's going to sail.
Yeah. You know what I mean? They're going to somebody else because information is so powerful out there and at everyone's fingertips that, they'll go on different websites or they'll find out who has what or what it is and they'll just start calling. And so, that's one of the biggest things is being available to your clients, when they need you, within reason, right? I mean, you have to take some time for yourself and family first and all that, but I think you've got to be available for your clients. And a lot of people don't realize in our business, it's part sales, part psychologist, talking people off the ledge.
Oh yeah.
It's and I'm sure with you guys, it's a little bit of that too, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like I've had cases where clients of mine have seen inspection reports and they kind of freak out and I've called you guys and we've hopped on a call and we had one with Jonathan the other day.
Yep.
And, he kind of talked the guy off the ledge, right? And it wasn't a big deal.
I tell people we're professional hostage negotiators.
Yes, 100%. Yes, you're 100% right. And those things are important, being available to them, right? For whatever they need.
And that's the thing. Everyone that I know that's successful, they have to be available and ready. And that's why, like me, okay, I love to fish and I love to get on my boat and travel throughout the Bahamas. I have to put a Starlink on my boat.
I just put one on.
Yeah, to make sure that like I'm ready to take a call anywhere that I'm at, because there's people like you that's dealing with a $55 million client that I may need to talk your client off the ledge.
Yeah.
So I need to be able to be there and be available to do that.
100%.
Now, as a father, how do you protect your family time? And how do your clients feel when you set those boundaries on weekends or your family time?
So I think, so I went through so many years of, before I had kids, of like working weekends, like all weekends, staying in the office till 8 o'clock at night, or sometimes later, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, working the weekends where we didn't have kids, where now, like I tell people honestly, when we sit down at a listing presentation, I tell people, look, I'm going to be honest with you. Like if you want open houses, we'll do them for you, but I'm not going to be the one there. Because I like to reserve weekends to be with my kids and my wife and the family.
Of course.
Now, I'm not going to say that every once in a while I don't do an open house. I did one 3 weeks ago because I had to do that one, and it's fine. But I'm not going to be that guy that every weekend I'm sacrificing my weekends to be with the family to go be in open houses all day on Sunday. And that's okay for people that do it. Different things work for different people, right?
Yep.
And I always tell people that. Different styles, different strategies, different things work for different people. I take my kids to school every morning, and I usually sneak away, and usually like my wife will pick up my daughter and I'll pick up my son, and I'll take them home, and then I'll go back to the office or whatnot. But for me, a lot of times, a lot of things are on the phone. So like for me, if I run out and pick up my son at school, like I'm on a phone call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not, it's not the end of the world. And really, the support that I have in the office with Cameron and Olive, like they've been so amazing that's really kind of allowed me to make that possible.
Yep. And it's true. That's why you're only as good as the people that's on your team and that's around you.
Right.
And it's funny because I do the same thing. Something that I am very intentional is taking my daughters to school and picking up my daughters from school and being there for them. But on the way there, when I pick them up, I'm on the phone. I'm working the phones.
Yeah.
And somebody that I listened to, his name is Myron Golden, and he said that it's good for your kids to see you working. It's good for them to hear you working. And sometimes I go and I tell the girls, hey, girls, I need you to stay quiet. I mean, they're 14 and 10.
Yeah.
It's like, and then I get off the phone and my 14-year-old's like, Dad, that was a Karen. How'd you stay calm? And I said, well, that's what you got to learn too. And they're learning things from you, seeing you work every day. That's going to build them into who they are in the future.
You realize now, there's two things that I realize now that I'm a parent. One of them is, and I was telling a story this weekend to my uncle. It sounds bad, but you take it for granted as a kid. You grow up as a kid and your parents take care of you. They love you. They take you to school. They put a roof over your head. They feed you. They take you on trips, all that. But you take it for granted because that's your life and you don't realize it. You don't, at least in my case, you don't realize how much your parents love you until you have kids.
True.
Right? Because
yes.
Because you have your kid and you fall in love with this kid that you love more than your own life, more than anything in the world. And then like it hits you like, holy, like that's how your parents feel about you, right?
Yeah. And then you love your parents more because of that.
And then you love your parents more because of that, right? Not that you don't love your parents before that, you do, but it's a different it's a different appreciation. It's a different understanding of what it is, because you really will never understand it until you hit that point.
Yep.
And the other thing is, your kids are a product of their environment. Yeah. And when they see you at home, that you and your wife respect each other and love each other, like that's what they grow around, and that's what they see, and that's what they're gonna like embody later, hopefully, right? They see you working hard, you know, they're gonna see, hey, dad works hard, mom works hard, you know, mom makes these sacrifices for me. Like they're gonna grow up to be that kind of person and kind of embody that, right? Because you're setting the example for them.
Yep. Yeah, exactly me. Like I'm an example of hard-working dad. Like my parents weren't successful. My dad came from Cuba, 1980, Mario boat lift, did construction his whole life. He came from a little town where he didn't know how to read or write, illiterate, but he did construction his whole life.
What town?
He came from Artemisa, in Cuba, small, and Tierra Colorada is what he calls it, right?
Yeah.
And he came in and he built a living, and for me and my kids, and I was the one that had to go work construction with my dad all the time.
Yeah.
But because of that, Dennis, I know everything I learned today.
Yeah.
And similar like you, I didn't go to school, didn't go to college. I got out of high school and I became a general contractor by 21 years old.
Right.
And I did it so my dad could have a license and not hide.
Right.
Doing work in buildings and be able to put signs on his vans and things like that. And that led me to where I'm at today. So it's true. Whatever you model for your kids, that's who they're going to become. And something that I know that you model a lot is being honest and telling the truth with your clients. And I know that's a big reason behind your success.
Yep.
So tell me about your rules of telling the truth, especially in listings with pricing, even if it risks the deal.
Well, I think, one thing I always tell people in the beginning is I always tell people two things. I'm always going to talk to you like family. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm always going to talk to you like family. I'm never going to tell you to do something I wouldn't do myself. But I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the industry that they tell people what they want to hear and then some, because they want to lock in a listing and they got it for a year, and then later on they'll get a reduction and it'll sell eventually. And it happens all the time. And that's unfortunate, because what happens is pricing is so paramount in our market. A lot of times when you price something correctly, you maximize what you get. When you price it incorrectly, you're leaving money on the table, because you end up reducing it and reducing it and reducing it. And
eventually in the long run, right? You leave money on the table.
You end up leaving money on the table.
True.
More cases than not.
Yep.
More cases than not. But I always tell people, I'm not going to tell you what you need to hear. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And sometimes it's cost me listings. It's cost me. There's one case in particular in Gables Estates where it was a house that's been listed for 5 or 6 years, and every year the listing expires, and the guy calls me and we talk, and he asks me what I think about the price, and I tell him the truth, and somebody else tells him more, and then every year the house is still in the market.
Yeah.
To the point that the last call we had, that particular person was like, I appreciate your honesty and candor. He's like, but I don't want to sell the house for what it's worth. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a different story then. You know what I mean? You want to be opportunistic and see if somebody will pay you more. But I'm telling you, this is what it's worth. So I think honesty is paramount. You gotta be real with people, because I never want to be that guy that overprices things, and then at the end of the listing you lose it, and it's like, oh well, you told me this price.
Yeah.
Now there are times where people will say, I hear what you're saying, but we want to try higher. And I tell them, all right, we'll try higher, we'll push, and we'll work as hard as we can, as long as you realize this is where the market is. This is what I'm telling you. We believe in it. We're going to push it, but let's have a conversation in 60 days or 90 days if we don't get anywhere with what you want to do. And more times than not, they're cool with that.
Yeah. But at least you go in there telling them what you think it is. And if that's what they want to do, okay, we're in this together. But
we're in this together.
But if you go there shooting for the stars because you want to get the listing from somebody else, then it doesn't sell. Now you just overpromise and underdelivered.
I had a client like 10 years ago. No, more. Probably 15 years ago. And we were looking at a house in the Grove. We were looking at a house on the water in the Gables. And he was going to overpay by like $1.5 million. And I remember that I was sick to myself about it. I'm like, I can't let this guy overpay. So I remember going over there and telling him, and it's all about mentality and mindset of the buyer. Everyone's different. And I remember the buyer telling me, he said, don't worry. He said, look, I appreciate you telling me that and worrying for me. But he said, don't worry about that, because He's like, I'm at a point in my life where I sold my company. I made a ton of money. At my age, he's like, this is what he told me. He said, I feel like I've got maybe 10 good years left. So his exact words to me were, a million more, a million less. Like, I don't care. I want to enjoy life. Yeah. And when he told me that, I kind of like breathed a sigh of relief. And I said, okay, as long as you know that I'm telling you that I think we're overpaying, then I'm good with it because you're making an adult decision and that's what you want to do and fine.
Yeah, that's good. And that shows, and I guess at the end of the day, whatever you sow, that's what you're going to reap.
100%.
And you're sowing that, and that's why you reap the benefits of it. For an agent that doesn't know, that's learning, that's starting off, that's jumping into luxury, how do you negotiate without being pushy?
I think how do you negotiate without being pushy? You mean with your own client or you mean for your client?
With both.
I think
what's the rule of thumb to not sound like you're being pushy?
I think everybody has their own strategy, right? I think you always have to do what's best for the client and forget about the money like we talked about earlier. But I think that you really just have to kind of take things one step at a time, take the process as it goes, not freak out. People in negotiations, everybody has different negotiating styles. Some people posture, some people bluff, some people lie. I hate lying. I've had clients that will tell me, like, tell them we have another offer. And I tell them, look, I don't play that game because at the end of the day, I've created a reputation where, when agents know I tell them something, it's the truth. Like, you can take it to the bank. So the last thing you want to do is tell somebody, I have another offer, and then they don't do anything, and then they come back, and they're like, what happened to your offer? And you're like stuck with your tail between your legs.
Yep.
So I think you kind of have to take each situation a little bit differently, but I think it's always kind of staying calm, not panicking, not putting the money ahead of the deal, right? Because I think when people get overbearing in negotiations, a lot of times it's because they're thinking about the money they're going to make versus what's the best way to get the deal done.
Yes, absolutely.
And sometimes getting a deal done, listen, I've had deals that have taken 3 months because it was too high, we were too far apart, then they came back, there's deals that we've done in a day, and there's deals that have taken us 2-3 months. It's just, you got to be patient.
Yeah, I think the key word that you said here that everyone needs to take into consideration is just go with the best interest of the client.
That's it.
And not yourself. And some people say, no, I have the best interest of my client. But in reality, you don't. Because you're just thinking about that commissions check. When you don't care if you make $1 or not on this deal and you just focus on the well-being of the client, that's when things go good for you.
Yep.
And this has been super powerful, Dennis. This has been a great podcast. So many great insights and things that you've learned and things that we've learned about you. And there's no magic recipe. It's you are yourself. You are authentic. You are honest. You say the truth, even if it's not convenient to you. And that's what's gotten you the success. And I wish you more success with that.
Thank you.
And so we're into a part of our rapid fire.
Oh, God.
And this is one of my favorite parts and most fun parts of the podcast and like a cool way to end it.
Yep.
And I'm going to ask you some questions and you're just going to give me quick answers, quick hitters.
Oh, Lord.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Top 3 Coral Gables restaurants, go. No thinking.
All right. I would say Daniel's. I'm always a fan favorite of Hillstone. Never had a bad meal
Hillstone is
there.
a classic, right? It's like...
Yeah, I never had a bad meal there. And I would say... what's my third? I love Italian food, but I'm not gonna go Italian. I'm gonna go with something a little underrated.
Okay.
Not underrated and that people don't think about. Christie's in the Gables.
Ooh, oh my gosh.
Like
yes.
like for a little Wednesday, Thursday low-key meal where you're not really looking for like, a big vibe or anything, but you want to have a good meal and a good drink or whatever. I've never had a bad meal there.
That's so true. My wife's grandma that passed away, 96 years old, she passed away. And her favorite restaurant was Christie's in the Gables. Yeah, so you said that, I'm like, wow. When you went Italian, I thought you were going to go Fratellino.
Fratellino's great. Actually, ate there the other day. We used to go to Vialetto all the time, which just reopened.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know it just reopened.
Yeah. Zucca's good. Porto Sol's great. That's another great one. Abraci is a staple.
Yes, of course.
Right? You never have a bad meal there. That's consistent. But the Gables has some good Italian
Yeah,
restaurants.
the Gable is right now some of the best dining without all the craziness.
Yeah.
Best spot in Coral Gables to take a client when you want them to remember you.
I think it depends on the client.
Okay.
I think it depends on the client because every client's different. Like I've taken clients to Riviera Country Club that aren't members at Riviera and like to play around a golf and they're super appreciative and they love it, you know? So it depends, you know, you can go to the Biltmore for a drink. You can go to, you know, Riviera. It depends. It's tough. That's a tough one for me.
Okay. Now, I think I know the answer to this one. You kind of said it, but your favorite golf course to play in South Florida?
You know, Riviera's home course, but I love playing Ocean Reef.
Oh, nice. Of course.
Yeah.
The Ocean Reef.
Yeah, I love playing Ocean Reef.
Absolutely. All right. This is my favorite question.
All right.
Who's a better fisherman, Mutton Man Senior or Mutton Man Junior?
Man, Junior's my guy. Junior's my guy, and who I always go with. I've spoken with Senior on the phone. I've never met him. I know he's a legend, and Junior learned everything from him.
Yeah.
I can't sell out my boy Junior though. I'm gonna have to go with Junior.
Yeah. I'm going neutral.
Even if I'm
biased here.
wrong,
Learn
even
from
if I'm
both.
wrong, I'm gonna have to go with Junior.
Yeah. There you go. Most underrated community or neighborhood to invest in or kind of keep in watch right now?
Most underrated neighborhood and community to keep and watch. You know, it's funny. I don't think there's an underrated community to keep and watch. I think Miami as a whole, with everything going on, compared to a lot of parts of the rest of the world, we're still a little bit undervalued. Like I think there's still room to go, right? Like
Yes, I agree.
I think there's still some room to go with everything happening, and I think everything's still coming, right?
Absolutely. One ultra luxury rule you never break with clients.
Put the client first.
That's it.
Always put the client first.
That's it. I think that's the theme of this podcast.
That's it. Put the client
commission breath and put the client first.
Put the client first and authenticity.
One thing agents get wrong about luxury that's an instant turnoff.
One thing that clients get wrong about luxury.
Agents get wrong about luxury. That's an instant turnoff.
About luxury real estate?
Yes.
Oh, that it goes back to it's more about doing right for the client and knowing what's out there, and discretion and loyalty and working for them than anything else.
Absolutely. Miami in one word right now.
Momentum.
Last question. We'll close it off with this. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
The best advice I've ever gotten. You know, there's a couple. There's a couple good ones, right? And I've got a couple sayings that I always say, like, you know, but one thing is, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that that's the best advice I've ever gotten, but it's a little tidbit that I've gotten. You know, another one is like sometimes when you're down in the dumps and you feel like, you know, you've been buried, you've actually been planted, right? You grow out of that. Because there's ups and downs and ebbs and flows, and everybody has great days and bad days, and sometimes you feel like it's the worst day ever, but, you know, you always come out of that.
Yeah, I got a good one for you.
Tell me.
You ready?
Tell me.
It's not who you know, it's who knows you.
There you go. I like that one.
That's another one that someone taught me one day that I never forget. It's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Yeah,
It's not that I know Dennis.
Yeah.
It's that Dennis knows me.
Yeah.
And I think that's key.
I like
and that's
that one.
important. Yeah.
I like that one.
Cool. I'm glad I was able to contribute one for you
I like
today.
that one. I like that one.
Wow, Dennis, this has been so powerful to have someone like you here to teaching our community, giving them an ultra luxury class. I know you're a busy guy. You got so much going on. Even while we're sitting here, I heard the phone going because it's who you are, is what you do, right? So I really appreciate you being here and teaching our community. And from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say thank you for driving all the way out here and being on the TruTalk Podcast.
No, man, I appreciate you guys having me. This is awesome. This is great.
Thank you. I wish you great success for the rest of the year and continue killing your goals.
Thank you, man.
And this is TruTalks, where business meets real life.